Ike and Tina couldn't get arrested. We could not get a hit record. We couldn't get airplay. Actually, what we wanted was to write rock, but we couldn't because it wasn't a reality. It wasn't our lifestyle, so that's why we covered. We did very few of our songs on stage. Just whatever single that we had released and just recorded was what we played, and everything else was covers. Ike is, I don't know if he still is, was a smart man, very cunning. He did well for himself for a while, actually, until he started to do drugs. I think the earliest stages was much more fun than when it became Ike and Tina Turner, because in the first stages, when the glitter dresses, the high heel shoes, the gloves, and riding in a Cadillac and the fur, that was when I really felt like a star. And then, of course, when I became the mistress wife and the slave girl, all of that stardom meant nothing, because standing on stage, I was depressed about the off-stage life, so nothing meant anything to me on stage. And then there was the pressure of having to make sure I was singing as Ike wanted. I didn't like my life. I didn't like the singing. And then a picture would come, and there I was on the stage, this horrible-looking person, and my life was horrible. The pictures were horrible. The songs I was singing was horrible. That was my existence, the star that people thought I was. But I made the best of it, because I think some kind of a way I did feel that was the vehicle to get me where I needed to go to. Cars burned, threats. My life was in danger. I was told from Ike that, you know, in other words, if I didn't give properties and, you know, that things would happen, so to speak. I don't want to elaborate. I always wanted to say this because it's common knowledge that Ike took everything, but he didn't. I learned how to survive with Ike. I learned how to perform. I learned how to cover songs and work without a record. This was what I learned. That's what I left him with, knowing that I could always work. And that's bottom line for me now. If I don't have a record, I can always get work, because I'm a performer. Performer first, record artist now, singer second, you know? A lot of it was seeing Anne Margaret Olson Smith show. She had male dancers and the greatest costumes, and they performed. And she didn't have a record. I thought, well, I can do that. And I wanted to do that. I knew then that I could decide what tempos the song should be when they're still fast, but it's my tempo. Everything then was mine. All of the times on stage, I felt I wanted to sing more ballads. I felt at that moment I was going to do whatever I wanted to do. I was thrilled. That's what they like. They like for you to make contact with them. They like for you to play with them. The songs that you sing has to relate to them. Getting back now to comparing me loving rock and roll. And you imagine me standing there singing about cheating on your wife or your husband to those kids. Those kids can't relate to that. You know, they're naughty. They want to hear some fun things. Rock and roll is fun. It's full of energy. It's full of laughter. It's naughty. To me, a lot of rhythm and blues songs are depressing. They are, because it's a culture you're writing about and a way of life. Rock and roll is white, basically, because white people haven't had that much of a problem, so they write about much lighter things and funnier things. My performance side and my private life is totally different. I'm an actress. I love pretending to be rock and roll. I love to pretend to be sexy, but I'm not gonna off stage sit around and be sexy. I feel very strongly that that is my gift, performance and to be able to sing. And that is what I have now, what I earned for myself. I achieved that for myself, for people to recognize me as a singer. And I think on some of the work you have here, some of the people that I respect said she is one of your singers. You couldn't hear me in the past. You're out there with them, they're looking right up there at you, and they're waiting for you to drop down there with them, and you just need, when they're that big, you're so happy that they came, that you feel like you need to make them really feel good. I'm extremely critical of myself, and I think I became what I am from looking at all the old footage. I corrected myself often. I look at now old footage that you have here, and I think, oh, I changed that. Facial expressions, the way that I stood, all of that was to make myself better, or as good as I possibly could be, and staying myself. Sometimes I think critics don't realize how critical they are because they are not realistic. I mean, who would, you see the footage here, who would go back and live in Nutbush all of your life? And it's the same as people that say that I turned my back on my music, but I'm more successful now than I've ever been in my life. So who's right? And who knows what is best for me? You make the moves in your life that you need to. You accept what people say about you critically if you're strong enough to handle it. And that's how I live my life. Because the moves that I've made have been positive ones.